adventure in Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm here with our next guest who has some killer new music that just come out and some tour dates coming up. So let's welcome to the show, Silent Theory. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. So tell us a little bit about the new album as we have behind me there. Tell us how the new album ends.
So the new album we're pretty excited about. As you can see, it's coming out September 13th. We got it all wrapped up a little while ago. We did this album a little bit different than we have in the past. So our first two albums with Dakota were all recorded at the same place. We had 100% creative control, all this other stuff. And for this album, we really wanted to kind of expand our boundaries and just kind of like learn as much as we could from other people who are successful in the business. And so this album does feature a few co-writes and things like that, where we've reached out to different people, like just to see their process, see how they do things, and just kind of like, make sure we're not, doing the same thing over and over and over again. We want to try and always be continuing to grow and improve. And so, so we brought in some co-writes on this one, and then we started recording with Chris Dawson. And we had done a couple of random singles with him in the past and had a great experience, but I mean, just flat out, Dawson is doing, some really great, he's working with huge bands. He's got big sound. He's got that really modern rock. And we were really looking for that for this album because, this album is definitely probably our heaviest album. It's still going to be all the things that people love about Silent Theory are still going to be there. We still have a lot of, like the piano tracks and strings and like all that kind of fun accompaniment and stuff like that. But like these songs are definitely much heavier, a little bit more aggressive lyrics and things like that. So I think it'll be fun to see everybody's response to that.
Yeah, I think they'll probably dig it, and especially so one of your newest videos here, Emptiness In You. It premiered at Revolver, so that's pretty cool in and of itself.
Yeah.
And oh my God, it surpassed over 120 million video views. Does that blow your mind or what?
A little bit. Yeah. Our videos have always done pretty well, kind of inexplicably. I mean, before we had any sort of support, we just kind of released the Fragile Minds video, and that has, created this whole support system for us on YouTube and things like that. So it's pretty crazy to see how things have grown so quickly.
Yeah, and I think about this sometimes too for bands. Is like, so you start out at one level and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, your views blow up or engagement blows up or likes blow up and all that stuff. And then it's like, that's what you want? And then you sit there and go, how am I going to respond to all this?
Yeah. Like, well, now we got to keep doing that.
Right? Exactly. And, and it's cool. You're playing one of the killer festivals coming up in Rock Fest.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. And you have a tour you're going on starting on the 22nd. And so tell us a little bit about the tour and how you ended up on Rock Fest and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So this year's been kind of a change for us because we've been kind of bouncing around between booking agents and things like that. And right now we're with Continental Booking, and it's been pretty great so far. Michelle's been doing great stuff for us. And the SKYLIT Drive tour, like that's a band that like has been around for quite a long time, like back in the Warped Tour days and things like that. And it's kind of exciting to see they're making new music. and they're out doing an anniversary tour for one of their big albums. So it's going to be kind of exciting to be, be a part of that and help support them on that adventure. It'll also be good because we haven't really been on the road as much recently, especially on the West Coast, which is ironic because that's where we live. So it'll be good to hit some West Coast dates. And then, Rockfest. I think that one actually came from Paul, our manager, Paul Crosby, formerly of Saliva. Had some connections and got us, in that door. But it'll be fun because we played Incarceration back in 2021, I think, and and we've played Rocklahoma in the past, and so it's fun to do these huge festivals, partially just to get to connect with that many people in one place, but also just as a fan. Like, they always have such killer lineups that you get to see some really great shows while you're waiting around to play.
Yeah, and I think I talked to you at Inc. That's a pretty wild festival too, right? Like, it's so funny because I go on tour and I do coverage of all these festivals, and one of my daughters, she's always like, "So, you excited?" I'm like, "Well, I do it every weekend and it's fun." I don't know if exciting is the key word when you're doing it every weekend. But then when I got to Shawshank for the first time that I covered that festival, I was like, I'm calling you from the prison yard of Shawshank. So yeah, now I'm excited.
Yeah, that's definitely a very unique venue. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I was out one morning and I was taking pictures of the prison, and there was this other dude taking pictures. He was in a band taking pictures of the prison. He's like, "Hey, you want to take my picture and I'll take your picture?" He's like, "Look at us. We're fanboying out on the prison."
Yeah, it's kind of funny because you tell people like you're going to Mansfield, Ohio, and they're like, "I have no concept as to what that means." And you're like, "Well, it's on the grounds of the old Ohio State Penitentiary where they filled with Shawshank." And then the people just kind of perk up a little bit. They're like, "Oh,
Right?
okay, yeah."
It's funny too, because you're right, because who would ever go to Mansfield otherwise? And that the local town that lives there, they're like, they're so proud of that festival because that's
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing they have in Mansfield.
Yeah. Other than that, it seemed like it was a pretty kind of quiet town.
Yeah, exactly. So, one story, good or bad, in your musical journey, or crazy or wild, what would it be?
Ooh, um, you know, that is a great question because there's a lot of good, bad, and otherwise. Um, I think I will go with, just because we're getting ready to do a tour run. Few years back, God, I want to say it was like 2018, 2019, something like that. We were doing a little tour run. That was the year that we went to Rocklahoma and stuff, and we had a 38-foot RV at that time, and that bus had taken us everywhere, and we'd done a lot of fun stuff with that bus. And then we started having some mechanical issues. Got some help from a really great guy named Cody in Bloomington, Illinois. Got us to the festivals and things that we needed to, but we were like on the last leg, leaving Denver to go to Grand Junction to play with Saliva, and then we were headed home to play a couple local shows. And about 20 minutes outside of Denver, the bus finally just died. Like, there was just no saving it. And so we, through the course of the middle of the night, we ended up sleeping about 3 hours in a hotel. But like, we ended up finding like the only U-Haul in Denver area that like had a capacity to tow. We rented that U-Haul, a sedan that could fit the rest of everybody else. We hooked up our trailer, gutted the bus as much as we could, sold it to some poor guy for like $2,000 because we were trying to scrap it or just, find somewhere to responsibly leave it.
Yeah.
And like, nobody had capacity to take it. And the scrapyard was like, we can't right now. And so some guy at the mechanic shop that we were at, he's like, "Well, my dad's been looking for a project RV and stuff like that." And we're like, we would love to talk to him if he's available. And it was like one of those, like, he was a little pensive, but he was interested. And like, we're like, don't mean to rush you, but we really have to have an answer, yes or no. So we ended up buying it. So we were eternally grateful for that. And then we just bombed it as fast as we could in that U-Haul with the trailer up and over, the Continental Divide down to Grand Junction, and ended up having like the best show of the tour. Like it was a packed place. It was the Mesa Theater there, which is a beautiful venue. Just absolutely packed to see Saliva play. And we got a great shout out from the local radio DJ. Saliva was pretty awesome about everything. And then, we just so many great conversations with fans and stuff like that. And a couple humorous stories with particularly one young lady who was just having a little too much fun and kept asking everybody like one at a time, like, hey, you want to go party? And we're like, no, we're good. Thank you though. Thank you. And she'd be like, oh, well, do you want to? And we're like, no, that's very kind of you to offer, but no, thank you. And at one point she got kicked out of the bar for like getting in a fight with somebody. And then somehow she ended up back in the bar, like a little later, just completely frazzled. Just like, oh man, Thursdays, am I right? And we're like, who are you? I need to know your story.
Right.
Yeah, it was just a real whirlwind of a 24-hour period. And I think that's one that we think about a lot every time we get ready to go on the road. Like, hopefully we can have some of those highs with a few less of the lows.
Yeah. So when something like that happens, where you're like, yeah, that's why I'm in doing this. Or the other side, maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, I definitely think that like we definitely had our period, especially like Mitch and I, where we used to drink quite a bit and have a good time. And I really enjoy those memories and those times, but we're all a little bit older. We're all married. Most of the guys have kids. So it's like, we're just at a different phase in our life where we're a little focused more on the business.
See, and I love hearing that because, everybody thinks like these bands when they're teenagers, young 20s, that's like all there'll ever be, but it's just like anything else in life. You evolve, and now this becomes your career, and it becomes something you want to be proud of, opposed to just, hey, I want to just go have fun and party. Now it's something that you really want to hone your craft, and you really want to be taken seriously, and you want to create the best way possible.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think it really is evident in our songwriting as well. Like if you listen to our first album, it's definitely a lot more lyrically driven by like that kind of like party atmosphere and kind of like having a good time. And I think over time we've started writing about things that were, a little more important to us and things like that. So,
well, it's true.
It's definitely evident on this album. I think we like really cover on the new album coming out. Like we definitely have a few songs that are pretty pointed and, things like that.
Well, and when you go through different stages of life, there's different things to write about. Like I'm sure there's things that you write about when you're a teenager and you think back and like, well, yeah, that was what I was thinking, but man, I was an idiot. Or something like that. Or, different things that were important at one point in life, they're not as important anymore. They don't have the same meaning. I always think about, I was talking about this in an interview recently, when you're an artist that's been around for a long time, and there's certain songs you have to play from way back when that you as the artist can't even relate to anymore, but everybody loves it. So you got to play it. And I'm thinking, man, that's so hard, I would think.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't know why, but the first thing that popped in my mind when you were saying that was Semi-Charmed Kind of Life by now I'm blanking on it. But like that whole song's about like doing crystal meth and like things like that. It's like, I kind of hope they're not living that life anymore. Like,
right. And if it's not the life you're not living, it's be kind of hard to sing about stuff like that. It's like, actually, I have to give kudos to, like Tool won't, not Tool, Perfect Circle won't play Judith anymore because it doesn't align with Maynard's values. Yeah. And like, that's one of their most famous songs, but he sticks to his values and is like, well, I can't really sing about that now type of thing.
Yeah. And I know the Beastie Boys did a similar thing with their song Girls, like, because that was pretty popular for them, but they're like, we feel like we've grown up a little bit and we feel like that song doesn't have the right tone anymore.
Right. And talk to me about your guitars behind you there.
Those are just kind of my home guitars here. So I got my this one, the acoustic Epiphone that just it's a good solid guitar. I think about it for $100. And yeah, I just love playing around with that one. The bass on this side, when I first joined the band, we were a different name, and it was one guitar. I played bass, and then Mitch was on drums, and we had a singer. Then we slowly transitioned to Silent Theory, and I was the original bass player. But we decided to bring George in the band because, frankly, he was a much better bass player than I was, and we really wanted to progress to a sound that had, a more full like dynamic on stage, and so we needed two guitars. And I'd always kind of dabbled with guitar, and so it really kind of was a good motivator to actually get better at guitar and stuff. So I keep that one around just because it's still a good guitar. It's the Nicky 6 model of the Thunderbird, and it does kind of remind me of the old humble beginnings. And then this Fender behind me, I don't know the full story on it. It's kind of on loan from my buddy, but he found it in a estate sale. And people were like, we're not 100% sure, but like Dad was definitely a professional musician. But like as far as we can tell, it's like a late 60s Fender, and it's just a really cool guitar, and it has a really beautiful I don't know. It's the imperfections because of the age and stuff like that come through in the clean tones is really, really beautiful. And I love toying around with that sometimes.
Nice. And see, I love hearing all that because I think some people that have never played guitar or have any idea, they don't know. They probably wonder why. Okay, so why is this guitarist have different guitars for different songs? And sometimes they may not know the answer to that. And each guitar does have its own story, its own sound, and its own vibe to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know over at the band space, we've recently started playing solar guitars. And that was we got turned on to those by Dawson because that's what he records a lot of his music with. And I mean, they're very affordable and they're incredible sounding guitars. So we've worked out and got a little bit of a artist endorsement with those guys and got some guitars there. And then, just kind of my personal collection. I also have a couple PRSs over there too. So, we definitely have probably too many guitars, but I mean, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, you can never have too many, right? All right, so the new album, Tell Us How It Ends, drops September 13th. And what's interesting about that is I just literally a couple hours ago just got home from flying in from LA because my best bro of life, he passed and his birthday was September 13th. And so I was helping his wife out, but then I see the September 13th here. It's just synergistic that we're having this interview right now.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your friend, but I'm glad that hopefully it inspires some good memories for you.
Well, there you go. And everybody's got to check it out. How do people reach out to you on socials? How do they pre-save or pre-order the new album and check out tour dates and everything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are on all the major social media platforms and anywhere you listen to music. So Spotify, Amazon Music, all that stuff. We're definitely on all of those places and a ton of playlists on those. But if you want links to all of that, you can go to silenttheory.com. It has right at the top, there's short links to all of our videos, but there's links to all of our socials, the tour schedule. There's merch store there if you feel so inclined. But yeah, so you can definitely pre-save the album on all of your streaming platforms, and then you can also pre-buy. We're doing a pre-sale of the physical albums, and we're signing all of the pre-sales and stuff like that. So you'll receive that right as the album comes out, get your signed copy of the album. So yeah, silenttheory.com is a great place to find links to all that stuff.
Love it. And yeah, they definitely need to visit your merch store because not only because you have badass merch, but that's the only way bands really survive nowadays. Gotta support bands by buying their merch.
Absolutely. It definitely keeps gas in the tank so we can go on the road and meet good folks.
There you go. Love it. Anything else you want to let the listeners know we haven't covered already?
No, just hope to see them on the road while we're out there with SKYLIT Drive, maybe out at Rockfest in Cadott, Wisconsin. And then, we just definitely follow us on social because we got another single coming out off the album here in the next few weeks. And so definitely don't want to miss out on that.
All right, beautiful. Well, thanks for giving us great music, and thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.